What up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, I hope you're doing well, hope you keep you safe. We're back on GIXIT again, as you would have seen from the last video. And I'm having a crack at the oil cooler surround. So basically I just want to take this ugly looking thing and hide it. So all you can see is the front bit. It's going to be interesting because this is bigger than the frame, so I don't know, we're just going to give it a bash and see where we end up. It is going to take a little while though, I think that. I'm going to be dipping in and out during the week to get this done. I've got like an hour here, a couple of hours there, so on and so forth. So we'll just crack on and see how far we get, hey? So first things first, I need to chop a bit of this off. Right, so first things first, where's square? Right, that corner's square and straight. These are the two sides that were guillotined. I've chopped bits off the rest of it, so they ain't gonna be square. So this is the end that we're gonna be working from. I think what I'm gonna do is, first up I wanna get a backing plate made. I'll show you the bike in a minute and show you where this is gonna sit. But basically I want a backing plate that I can build everything else onto. Reason being, it's going to be oversized, it's going to be solid, I ain't going to be chopping the hole out the back of it yet. Reason for that is I'm going to be making a box for this to sit in. So I'll be making it in 4 pieces I think, and it will just go around it. It's going to have a couple of cutouts for the lines to hook up. I'm going to do it in 4 pieces because some of these need to have bends and returns and everything else done on Brenda. Right, so I don't know if you can see this at all, but there's a few nasty things going on with this frame. First thing is it's a breakaway frame. All this bit here and the cradle on the right hand side, it comes apart. It's all held in place with these bolts, and I hate breakaway frames, so if I can cover any of that up, I want to do so because it's ugly in my book. The other thing is there's a plate here that is welded onto the front of these frame tubes, so it kind of steps in, which I don't like either. So all this is going to get covered up, and I hate that cross member. So what we're probably going to do is to build this around to go from here. It'll obviously come out, you'll have the oil cooler in there, and then I want to sort of blend it into the top of the frame. So it's literally going to go from the bottom of the steering stem down to about here. The oil cooler is wider than the frame, so I'll use that as a reference. We will be cutting it oversized, but if I just get a basic measurement here to start off with, then we can chop out a big bit of metal, do it a little bit bigger. Well, let's go for, I don't know, it's going to be about 400 mil ish. So I'll probably do it 450, just because that way I've got a bit extra, because I'm going to need to put a bend in it up here as well, and I'm going to need something to hold on to. Right, 450. Sharpie. Right. So 450. Nearly done, eh? Right, let's get this out of the way. Clean that up. Right, so let's just start off at 10. That's the guillotine side. It's pretty square. Yeah. Right. Okay. So now I want to mark it up. Where's my scribe? Don't have to do this. I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just saying the way that I'm doing it. But I quite like to work with a centre line. So I'm going to scribe this in just so I can try and keep it, you know, nice and accurate. Yeah, okay. Okay. Grubby fingerprint will do it. See, I don't want to have any fixings on show. I don't want you to be able to see how it's fixed. I just want it to be plain, which means it's either got to go in the bottom or it's got to go in the back. If it goes in the bottom, it's going to be quite hard to do all this because there's going to be a cutout obviously for so as this comes down, I'm going to need to have a cutout here to get into there on either side, and then about here I'm going to need to have a similar sort of thing for the exhausts. Something like that was the plan. And I wanted to have a little bit of a curve on the bottom because everything about the bike is curved, you know, the tank and everything. Right then. I just have to dress the sides down on this a little bit. Basically the top and the bottom ones were sticking out further than these, so I had a big gap, and I don't want a gap, I want it to snug up. So how tall do I want the sides? How tall is that? Right, so 51 mil. It's going to want to come up a little bit. Because I'm going to want this to sort of, if the side comes straight up, I'm going to want this side to kind of come down to about there. So that return will be 25 and it comes in, let's say 65. So if I cut my side pieces 90 mil high, I can put a bend in it so it comes back down again, because I want there to be like it funnels into this. It's only going to be a little step, it's not going to be anything major, but I don't want it to just be, you know, a box dead flat. I want it to have a little bit of a shape, and I'm thinking something like that would be all right, because then it covers up the side cores, so all you're going to get is the wiggly bit in the middle with the actual cooler. So something like that. Right, this is Brenda the Bender, so named by Paul Woods, I think it was, that came up with that one. Basically, it's a homemade box pan brake. I made it a little while ago. I'll stick a clicky thing up there. You can go and have a look, see. If you want to make one yourself. Now, she's all right up to like a mil. Maybe 1.2. She puts a nice brake in it. Anything beyond that, and she bends it rather than breaks it, if that makes sense. But to get like a vice mounted brake that's this length though in there, you know, it's not going to be cheap. So the only other way of doing it would be to chop the pieces off and weld them together once they're in a position that you want. But I'm hoping to use that bend to my advantage, because I don't want it to be like a really sharp sort of angle to it. I want it to have a curve to it. There are some changes I want to make to her. She does need a little bit of bracing, because this platen does flex a little bit. It's made out of chunky stuff, but it still flexes. And I want to take all that out. So there's another video coming on this. It's probably going to have some bracing that comes down here. It's welded to both sides of the platen and through the handles, and it's going to have a centre spar that goes through, and that's welded on both sides too. And I'm probably going to do the same on the top, just because I'll be doing it. Right, let's give this a go. Right, and if we do, I'm probably going to, Craig did a video. This is just raw metal. I cut everything in here, gets covered in oil. But he did a thing recently with beeswax, and apparently that's how he protected all the tools when he was smithing. So I'm tempted to have a go on this with that, see what it comes up. I'm tempted to do it over a whole bike, if I'm honest. Oh, that'll do. Yeah, that should work. Right. Oh, we ain't far off. Ain't far off at all. Actually, it's pretty much there. That is pretty much there. Give me a block. I want a block. Let me show you. Right, so it's quite a nice snug fit. I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that actually. But the thing is, it gives me a nice little return lip. So you just see the core, but it's just covering. You see the edge of the core here. If you snug it up, it is just covering the edge. So we're not going to be restricting airflow at all. Awesome. Right, another one of them then. If this is going to go in from the back, I'm going to need to slot it to that surface. And that is really, like there is nothing left. There's like 4 mil between the edge of this nut and the edge of the box. And this would all be open and in front of the weather. So I think I'm going to need to box this in totally, and then add these bits later on, I think. Right, slight change of plan then. Just going to build a simple box around the whole outside. How tall are you? £51.5 mil, so we'll call it 52. And I'll cut some steel up just to make a box out of this and get it framed, and then I'll worry about those bits afterwards, I think. Right, so I've got my 4 bits chopped out. Give them a quick clean. Nothing major. And this is filthy. Look. Ah well, never mind. Right, so right, it is flat. That's a good start. So if we was to have one on the back edge, like that. Two down the sides, you'll do. That one's going to go on like that. I've got a little V in the corners just so I can get some weld in there and you know, do it right. And this one, hopefully, is going to snug up. Which it does. Cool. So this needs to go on the bottom here. But before I do that, I need to cut some holes out of here just to allow for the lines to come through. Essentially it's going to be going in the back, so this is going to need to be slotted. Where's my hole saw? I've got a hole saw, which is tiny little bit bigger than that. So all we've got to do is get placement, stick a hole in there and there, and it's probably going to slot all the way to the end, so it's just going to be like a radius sort of thing, because otherwise I'm going to end up with like 4 mils worth of steel on the end, and that's just pointless. And this is obviously going to get welded onto the backing plate anyway, so I think for now we're just going to stick a hole in there and there, slot it out, make it look nice, and then stick all this lot together. Right, so that is going to go on there. Two sides go on as well. Nice little V in each corner, and that will fit a treat. Okay, so this is just a block of alley that I milled out and squared up basically, so I know that all the sides are perfectly sort of 90 degrees to one another. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is doing this separately. So I'll clamp it across here, clamp it across there, and basically go around doing each of the corners, so there's like a nice little V down the corner, and that way I know I can get welding, and it's going to go all the way to the back. It's not thick stuff anyway, but it just means that all the corners will be exactly the same, which will be a good thing. I want a tiny bit of wiggle room in it anyway, because you know it's going to get painted or powder coated or whatever, so there is going to be a tiny bit of wiggle room, but I don't want much. This needs to be snug. Right, welder. Right, so this is only, it's very lightly tacked in place. The corners are obviously all going to get filled in, and hopefully you can see there's like a bit of a V there in the corner, tiny little gap in the middle, just so the weld's going to go all the way through, and it's the same on all corners. But that fits on there nice and snug. Tiny bit of wiggle room, but nothing major. And by the time this all gets welded down to that base plate as well, so by the time that gets stuck on there and then welded along all sides and down the corners, that's going to be lovely and strong. Right, so happy with that. What's next? Probably put a bend in this, I guess. And then I can decide whereabouts this is going to sit on here. Stick it on, mark it up, and job should be a good one, I think. Right then. I raised my flat up on some flat stock that I've got. Excuse me. The idea is I'm going to use this piece of stainless tube just to bend the top of this around. So we've still got a centre line. I've moved the flat stock in so I can get under here and clamp it. But essentially we're going to use the seam in the tube to line it up so it's completely parallel. Draw a line across here, clamp one onto the other, and then lift this up and put a little bit of a bend in it. It doesn't need to have much of a bend in it, but it does need a bend. So if we just mark each edge of that seam, that'll do. Also don't really need much of an overhang by any means. Like that. Where's my Sharpie lid gone? Okay, clamps. Right, so looking at it, we're looking to put a 35-degree bend in this. That'll be alright. Okay. Hopefully this works, otherwise I've got to do it all again. The trouble is I can't get behind it. I ain't got more than that yet. I really want something flat to put behind it, but I haven't got anything. Right. Right, if anything, that's a little bit too much. Right, that'll do. So that will come up underneath the headstock. Right, so just mocking stuff up at the minute. This isn't tacked on. It's held on with these little rare earth magnets, tiny little things, but really strong. And I've got a couple on the back there just to act as a bit of a spacer. And I want to get an idea as to where this needs to go. So I'm hoping, with a little bit of fuss, oh, come on. All right, so that's going to go up there. Spacer's on. That's just off the bolts. And it wants to be about there. If I compare this to my bike, top of the oil cooler, pretty much in line with this angle here. So it needs to go about there. The only worry I've got is because he's put ridiculously short forks on this, how much clearance we're going to have. We know we need to have an oil cooler anyway. It ain't going to stick out any more than it needs to, really. So, and we know it's got to go there. So it's going there. And then what I'll end up doing is having the fork caps off, just dropping the whole front end and seeing how much clearance we've actually got before we hit the bump stops. He's not going to be running the front mudguard on this, so I've got a little bit of extra, but forks do flex a little bit, not a lot, but they do flex a little bit, and I want to keep some daylight between the two. Right, that'll do. Right, so if we mark that there, that's going to be the top of this frame. They're good little things, these magnets, cheap as chips, but they are so strong, really strong. I use them for all sorts of stuff. The only trouble is they do get covered in grinding dust. So they end up looking hairy, but they're just really good for holding, you know, light stuff like this in place without the need to tack anything. Right, so we've got to get a square line across there. This edge is square. Sorry, this edge is parallel to that one, so that's easy enough. Where's my set square? Alright, so we haven't warped it, which is good. He's going to go on like that. And I've still got, I don't know, a couple of mil on the inside. So what I think I'm going to do is tack it in various places along the outside. Just to get it all nice and snugged up and sorted and everything else. Then I'll dress up the inside of the hole, see if this little lip that I've left in it is going to do the job and it's big enough, or I need to have a rethink. But I think we're sort of getting there. Right, I think we're in. Well, partly in. Right, so as you can see, it's tacked all the way around. Just a few light tacks. If I needed to break them off, I could do, but I don't think we're going to need to. It's also still nice and flat, so we haven't distorted anything, which is good. Pum pum pum. And this will just slot in, which again is good. So again, everything's kept square and blah 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 blah. So I can't get this in there at the minute because obviously it's going to go in from the back. Can you see now? Right, this side there is an overhang. This side is just flush, and the idea is that when the oil cooler goes in, it goes in at an angle. It'll hook underneath here, and then as you bring it down, it will snug up against the inside of the piece, just to keep everything where it is. There's obviously going to be a lip on the front as well. We'll get to that bit once I've filled all this in. But that's why there's an overhang there. Thing is that I need to put the cutouts in the back. This is about 2mm too short. So basically I need to have a cutout in the back here to allow for the oil lines to go through. The only thing is that these AN fittings are really long, like really long. So imagine that sitting in there, and then these AN fittings, I mean they're massive. They're probably like that. Unless we put in a 45-degree one and bring it back. But either way, I think we're chopping a big old chunk of this out. Right, so it's all been welded and dressed up. Ignore this corner and that corner. I haven't finished that, and I still need to sort out my little radiuses in here. But it's all sort of dressed up. That's kind of what the edges are going to look like. So tiny little radius, but they're all nice and straight and neat, which is good. As far as straight goes, we have got a little bit of deformation going on here. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a couple of mil at this end. And that's basically where this welder's gone in. The weld gets hot and it shrinks, and it basically causes the metal to sort of deform and curl up. This is long, it is going to get trimmed down, but it just goes to show how much deformation you get in sheet metal. And this is just a flat sheet, so there's no strength to it holding it down whilst you're welding it. I did have this sitting on top of it, big old piece of alley. And it does weigh a fair bit, but it will still tweak on you. So it's worth seeing, it's worth knowing. All cooler still fits in, so nothing's walked up there, which is sweet. Tiny bit of wiggle room, which is good, because this is all going to get painted. So now I need to sort out what I'm going to do here. I want to cut a chunk out the back here, so the oil lines that come off the bottom of the oil cooler can disappear out the back of this, and you're never going to see them from the front, apart from obviously where it gets below the shroud. The AN fittings we've got on the old one don't fit this, but I measured them and they're actually 60mm in length. That's like that. They're huge. And given you got this nut as well, that makes it 70mm. So we're now talking about the fittings alone coming down to there. Then you've got to allow for the oil line to actually bend. It ain't going to start bending until it gets to that point, so you're probably down to sort of like 120 before it starts to hook round. That's quite a lot. So what I'm thinking might be an idea is to get some AN fittings with a kink in them. I think you can get 30° or 45° or something like that. I don't know, I need to go and have a look-see. But anything I can get to start sending them back would be a good thing. So all I need to do now really is to, ideally it'd be a tube that's the same diameter as that basically goes from there to here, and I'll just chop it off at the various angles, weld it in, and away we go. Trouble is I haven't got any tube that's the right sort of length, but grubbing about in the scrap bin I did find that, which gave me an idea. So I could just do it as like a, you know, box section with one side cut off. This ain't going to do it because it's not tall enough. So I'll probably end up making something that kind of does that. Obviously this will be narrow, you know, chopped down and stuff. But essentially I can have a channel that runs from there to there, all boxed in. That'll give this a little bit of strength as well, so I can try and pull some of this tweak out. We can stick that box section in like that. You're never going to see it anyway because it's going to be buried inside this, and it will just give a nice smooth sort of channel for the lines to come out of. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So really, to have the AN fittings on here, and then for the hose to bend, not horribly badly or nastily or anything else like that, you know, sort of like that, so it's, you know, so it's not putting any real stresses and strains on it. This side of the hose has got to clear this surface, and in order for that to happen, you are talking about so 150mm, which basically puts it down here, about there. This is a little bit long, it's not massively long. So let's mark this up. Let's stick it on the bike and see realistically how far down have we got to go. Right, we're going to have to open this out a little bit more than I wanted to, purely because of where the frame rails go and where the hose is going to have to route. I'm limited on, you know, where I can get the hose out, because I've got an exhaust port there, two in the middle and another one here. So this dotted line represents where the frame rails come down. Excuse me. So the hose is going to have to come down on top of this, and then as the frame kicks out, when it gets down here, it will disappear down the inside. Because of the length of the AN fittings, there is no flex up to a certain point, and then, you know, the hose is only going to bend so much. I don't want to put things under strain, so I'm going to have to make this quite wide, which, you know, I didn't really want to do, but needs must and all that. Right then, all ground down. You're not even going to see this bit. Why are you grinding it down there? It's just to make sure there's no voids in the welds or anything else like that. Any silliness going on, because I've had to join these two together. I think we're in, I think we're all good. Yeah, it's looking all right, it's looking all right. So now all I've got to do really is chomp out the back of this. I'll mark it up first, we'll obviously come in a little bit. That's gonna need to, oh, what is that gonna need to? Yeah, that's gonna need to come around a little bit and then come down, something like that. So we can chop this hole out the back of it, dress it up and then weld that corner. Right, so the idea was that with the hoses connected, that this would go in at an angle and then kind of pivot down, but it's such a snug fit. The diagonal, it's like a couple of mil over, it ain't gonna, you know, it can't clear the diagonal to then go flat. And I don't want to be trimming truckloads more off this because, you know, I want it to be a nice snug fit once it's in. So we're going to lose that lip, just open it up, and then we'll have to have something on the back just to keep it all in place, which is fine, not really a problem. There'll be a lip on the front to keep it in situ as well. So all's gold there. I just need to lose this lip here, seam weld, dress it all up, jobs are good. However, I'm not doing that now. Right, I've just had a call saying if you don't come now, your dinner's in the dog. And she's cooking roast dinner and I like my roast dinner, so I'm going to get going. I think this is going to work out. Essentially, this is the back piece. Once I've dressed and sorted all this lot up, then we've just got to trim the tops down, shroud it, and then I can work on the wraparound bits to go around the sides of the frame as well. So we're sort of halfway there really. I've been dipping in and out this way. I've been in here 3 days I suppose, and each day I've only had like a couple of hours, and by the time you get set up and sort out cameras and various other bits and pieces, you don't really get that much chance to get stuff done. So there is going to be more than one part to this. But then again, you probably knew that anyway. But we're looking good so far. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us, really do appreciate it. And we'll see you again next time. Laters!